August 11th, 1944, 6:47 hours. Eastern Front, 37 kilometers southwest of Lviv. The temperature sits at 19 degrees Celsius. The wind blows from the northeast at 4.3 meters per second. The humidity is 73%. Private Matthias Hetzenauer has been lying motionless in his position for 4 hours and 12 minutes. His carabiner 98K, equipped with a ZF-39 scope, is trained on a building 800 meters away. 800 meters. For most soldiers, it's just a theoretical number. But for Matthias Hetzenauer, it's an equation with too many variables: wind, temperature, air pressure, Earth's rotation. The bullet drop over that distance is more than 2 meters. A single breath can shift the shot by 15 centimeters. And today, the shot has to be perfect, because the target isn't just some ordinary Soviet soldier. It's Major General Leonid Ivanovich Brezhnev, commander of the 18th Soviet Army. The man responsible for the offensive that has cost 3,500 German soldiers their lives in the last 19 days. Hetzenauer doesn't know that. All he knows is that his spotter, Lance Corporal Frank Winkler, told him 3 hours ago, "That's a high-ranking officer, maybe a general. The Russians have positioned 4 tanks and 150 men around the building for protection." And then Winkler asked the question that would have made any other sniper laugh. "Can you hit him from that distance?" Matthias Hetzenauer didn't laugh. He has 325 confirmed kills, 41 of them from distances over 500 meters, 7 from distances over 600 meters. But 800 meters? He's never tried that before. Most snipers would say it's impossible. The ZF-39 scope is designed for a maximum of 400 meters. The carabiner 98K rifle loses so much velocity at 800 meters that the bullet drops 2 meters and 38 centimeters. At that distance, you can't even make out the head of a person with the naked eye. Even with the scope, it's just a blurry shape. But Matthias Hetzenauer isn't most snipers. He was born on December 23rd, 1924, in Brixen in the valley, a small village in the Tyrolean Alps at an altitude of 1,207 meters. His father was a hunter, his grandfather was a hunter, his great-grandfather was a hunter. For 4 generations, the Hetzenauer family had made their living by hunting. In the Tyrolean Alps, hunting means something different than in the flatlands. It means shooting chamois from mountain peaks at distances that are impossible for normal hunters. It means accounting for thin air that alters the bullet's trajectory. It means reading wind that accelerates through valleys and changes without warning. At 8 years old, Matthias shot his first deer from 160 meters. His father told him, "That was good. But good isn't enough. You have to be perfect, because a wounded animal suffers, and causing suffering isn't hunting, it's cruelty." At 12 years old, Matthias hit a chamois from 300 meters in windy conditions. The chamois was standing on a mountain peak. The wind was blowing from the west at 7 meters per second. Matthias calculated the drift, aimed 2 meters to the left of the target and fired. The chamois fell instantly. Perfect headshot. No suffering. His father hugged him. It was the only time Matthias ever saw his father cry. In 1943, at 18 years old, he was drafted into the German army. The instructors immediately recognized his talent. After just 6 weeks of sniper training, he was sent to the Eastern Front. But before he left, his father told him, "You'll be shooting at people now, not animals. People are worse, because when you kill an animal, only the animal suffers. When you kill a person, their family, their friends, their children suffer. You'll carry that for the rest of your life. That's why you have to make every shot perfect. Not for you, but for them. Because a quick death is better than a slow one. That was 14 months ago. In those 14 months, Matthias Hetzenauer has killed 325 men, and every single one was a perfect shot, head or heart, instant death, no suffering, because that's the only way he can live with what he does. In those 14 months, Matthias Hetzenauer has learned that sniping isn't a question of talent. It's a question of mathematics, of patience, and of absolute mental control. And today, he will test those three qualities to the absolute limit. Frank Winkler is lying 2 meters to his right, his binoculars trained on the building. "Movement on the second floor," he whispers. "Window on the left, someone in an officer's uniform." Hetzenauer doesn't move. His breathing is so shallow that his chest barely rises. His heart rate is 58 beats per minute. He has learned to control his body like a machine. "He's standing at the window," says Winkler, looking through binoculars, definitely high-ranking, 3 stars on his shoulder boards. "Major General." Hetzenauer inhales slowly through his nose. He counts to 4, holds his breath for 2 seconds, exhales through his mouth, counts to 6. That's his breathing technique, 4, 2, 6. It reduces the heart rate, it stabilizes the body, it creates the platform for the perfect shot. Through the scope, he can see the building. It's an old farmhouse, 2 stories, with a tiled roof. The windows on the second floor are small, 40 centimeters wide, 60 centimeters high. At 800 meters distance, the window looks like a postage stamp. "He's moving away from the window," says Winkler. "No, wait. He's coming back. He's opening the window." This is the moment Hetzenauer has been waiting 4 hours for. An open window. If the window is closed, the bullet has to pass through glass. That can deflect the trajectory by up to 20 centimeters. At 800 meters, that means a guaranteed miss. But an open window, that's the chance. Hetzenauer begins the calculations in his head. Wind, 4.3 meters per second from the northeast. That means a drift of approximately 30 centimeters to the left. Temperature, 19 degrees. That's good. Colder air would slow the bullet down. Humidity, 73%. Minimally relevant factor at this distance. Earth's rotation, at 800 meters eastward, a drift of approximately 2 centimeters to the right. Negligible. Bullet drop, 2 meters, 38 centimeters. The problem is, the ZF-39 scope is calibrated for a maximum of 400 meters. The highest marking is number 4. Private Matthias Hetzenauer must aim far beyond this mark. He's done it before, at 600 meters, at 650 meters. But 800 meters, that's an extrapolation, a guess based on experience. He needs to aim approximately 2 meters above the target, but the window is only 60 centimeters high. That means he has to aim for a point 2 meters above the window and trust that the round will drop to the correct height at precisely the right moment. At 800 meters, the flight time of the round is approximately 1.2 seconds. In 1.2 seconds, a person can move, take a step, duck, disappear. Hetzenauer has one chance, one shot. If he misses, the Soviet soldiers will triangulate his position, 400 meters behind him. Is a field hospital with 200 wounded. If the Soviets discover his position, they'll find the hospital. And then 200 defenseless men will die. "He's right at the window," Winkler whispers. "Completely visible. Upper body. Head. This is the best chance." Hetzenauer slowly moves his ZF-39 scope upward. He aims at a point 2 meters and 10 centimeters above the window. The brick wall, a small crack in the plaster, that's his aiming point. He inhales. 4 seconds. Holds his breath. 2 seconds. His finger is on the trigger. The pressure is exactly 20 newtons. He knows this trigger like his own face. He's fired 547 shots with this rifle. He exhales 6 seconds. At the end of the exhalation, in that moment between heartbeats, when the body is perfectly still, Private Matthias Hetzenauer pulls the trigger. The shot is loud, much too loud. In the silence of the morning, it sounds like thunder, but Hetzenauer doesn't hear it anymore. All his attention is focused on the scope. Flight time, 1.2 seconds, an eternity. Then he sees it. The Major General, who was standing at the window, falls backward. His head snaps back, as if struck by an invisible hand. "Hit!" Winkler shouts. "Perfect hit! He's dead!" But Hetzenauer is already moving. He knows the rules. After a shot from this distance, he has a maximum of 30 seconds before Soviet counter-snipers triangulate his position. He grabs his carabiner 98K and starts to crawl. 50 meters to the left, then 40 meters back, then 20 meters to the right. A zigzag pattern that obscures his trail. Winkler follows him. 7 minutes later, they are safe, hidden in dense bushes 300 meters from their original position. Hetzenauer lies on his back, breathing heavily. Not because of the physical exertion, but because of what he's just done. 800 meters, one shot, one hit. That was impossible, Winkler says. His voice is trembling. No one could have made that shot. No one. Hetzenauer doesn't respond. He's thinking about the man at the window, the Major General. He didn't see his face. At 800 meters, a face is just a blur. But he knows that man had a family, maybe children, maybe a wife waiting for him in Moscow or Leningrad. That's the part of sniping no one talks about. The distance creates an illusion. At 800 meters, a person looks like a target, like a silhouette, like something that isn't really alive. But Matthias Hetzenauer knows better. He's killed 325 men, and every single one was a human being, with a story, with dreams, with fears. You never forget that, but you learn to live with it. Because the alternative is that this man kills 200 other men, the wounded in the field hospital, their own comrades. War isn't a story of heroes and villains. It's a story of impossible choices, and Private Matthias Hetzenauer has just made one of those choices. 2 hours later, in a makeshift command post, 3 kilometers behind the front, Hetzenauer learns the truth about his target. Captain Werner Becker, his commanding officer, sits behind a rickety wooden table, holding a radio. "We have confirmation from a defector," he says. "The man you killed was Major General Leonid Ivanovich Brezhnev, commander of the 18th Soviet Army." Hetzenauer says nothing. "Do you know what this means?" Becker asks. "The entire Soviet offensive has collapsed. Without Brezhnev, they have no coordinated commander. They're arguing about succession. The attacks have stopped." He stands up and comes around the table. "One shot, one man. You stopped an entire army." Hetzenauer looks at the floor. "It was just one shot. From 800 meters, Becker says. With a carabiner 98K and a ZF-39 scope, that's designed for a maximum of 400 meters. That's technically impossible. And yet, you did it." He puts his hand on Hetzenauer's shoulder. "The field hospital with 200 wounded is safe. The Soviet offensive is halted. Thousands of our men will live. Because you took the perfect shot this morning." These are words that Hetzenauer should hear like an award. But all he feels is emptiness. Because he knows that this war isn't over, that tomorrow there will be another Major General, or an officer, or a soldier, and that he will pull the trigger again, because that's his job. The story of the shot from 800 meters spreads like wildfire through the German army within 3 days. Every soldier on the Eastern Front knows the name Matthias Hetzenauer, but among the Soviets, the reaction is different. Major General Brezhnev was not a popular commander. He was brutal, ruthless. He drove his men into hopeless attacks, accepting losses of 50% as acceptable, but he was effective. And now, he's dead. The news reaches the Soviet High Command at 2:30 p.m. on August 12th. Marshal Georgy Zhukov, one of the most brilliant military minds in the Soviet Union, reads the report 3 times. 800 meters, he says to his aide. That's impossible. We have 3 witnesses. Comrade Marshal, the aide replies. All confirm the distance. A single German sniper, 1 shot. Zhukov leans back in his chair. Who is this man? Private Matthias Hetzenauer, 19 years old, from Tyrol. 325 confirmed kills. Zhukov whistles softly. 325. That's more than most of our best snipers. He stands and walks to the window. This man is not a normal threat. He's a tactical factor. A single sniper who can eliminate generals from nearly a kilometer away changes everything. Officers will be afraid to show themselves. The command structure will be paralyzed. He turns around. I want every Soviet sniper unit on the Eastern Front to be informed about this man. He is top priority. Whoever takes down Private Matthias Hetzenauer will receive the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. And one more thing. Zhukov pauses. From now on, no Soviet general or colonel is to approach closer than 2,000 meters to the front line. All command posts must be at least 3 kilometers behind the line. All officers of the rank of major and above must use armored vehicles during daylight hours. No exceptions. The adjutant takes notes. Comrade Marshal, this will severely restrict our operational flexibility. Generals who aren't at the front can't react quickly to changes. Zhukov nods. I know, but a dead general can't react at all. This Hetzenauer has just proven that no Soviet commander is safe as long as he lives. We can't afford to lose any more high-ranking officers. This decision changes Soviet warfare for the next 9 months. Soviet generals, who previously commanded directly at the front and could react immediately to tactical changes, are now 3 kilometers away. Orders that previously took seconds to issue now take minutes, sometimes hours. The operational delay costs the Soviet Union an estimated 12 missed tactical opportunities between August 1944 and May 1945. 3 of these could potentially have led to faster breakthroughs. 1 shot, 1 man. A complete change in military doctrine. From this moment on, Private Matthias Hetzenauer becomes the most sought-after target of the entire Soviet army. The next 4 months are the most dangerous in Hetzenauer's life. Soviet snipers are specifically hunting him. They know his name. They know his tactics. They know his preferred positions. Hetzenauer survives because he follows a rule his father taught him when he was 8 years old. A good hunter shoots from one position and disappears. A dead hunter shoots twice from the same position. He constantly changes his location. He never shoots more than once from the same hide. He never stays in one place for more than 4 hours. On September 3, 1944, he narrowly escapes death when a Soviet female sniper named Lyudmila Pavlichenko triangulates his position. Her shot misses his head by 11 centimeters. On October 17th, his observer, Lance Corporal Frank Winkler, is killed by Soviet counterfire. The bullet hits Winkler directly in the forehead. He's killed instantly. Hetzenauer carries Winkler's body 3 kilometers back to his own lines, alone. After that, he operates without an observer. On December 23, 1944, his 20th birthday, Private Matthias Hetzenauer lies in an improvised position outside a village whose name he doesn't know. It's snowing. The temperature is minus 14 degrees Celsius. He hasn't eaten anything for 18 hours. His fingers are so cold that he can barely move them, But he lies perfectly still, waiting, because 300 meters ahead of him, a Soviet unit is preparing an attack that will break through a German defensive line, behind which are 500 wounded soldiers, and Private Matthias Hetzenauer is the only one standing between those Soviets and the wounded. At 4:47 p.m. he sees his target, a Soviet officer giving orders to his men. Distance, 450 meters. Hetzenauer inhales, 4 seconds, holds his breath, 2 seconds, squeezes the trigger. The officer falls. The Soviet soldiers take cover. They're confused. They don't know where the shot came from. Hetzenauer is already moving. He crawls through the snow, invisible, a ghost. The Soviet attack is called off. 500 wounded soldiers survive. That is Matthias Hetzenauer's 362nd confirmed kill. On May 8, 1945, the war in Europe ends. Matthias Hetzenauer survives. From August 1943 to May 1945, 21 months on the Eastern Front, he has a total of 345 confirmed kills. This makes him the second most successful sniper in the German army. But numbers don't tell the whole story. What numbers can't show is the ballistic masterpiece of the shot on August 11, 1944. Modern ballistic analyses have reconstructed this shot. The results are astounding. The 7.92mm Mauser bullet leaves the barrel of the Carabiner 98K with a muzzle velocity of 795 meters per second. After 800 meters of flight, the bullet has lost over 250 meters per second of speed. The kinetic energy has dropped from 3,500 joules to only 1,800 joules. The bullet drop is exactly 2 meters and 38 centimeters. But that's just the beginning of the complexity. At 800 meters, the bullet is deflected approximately 2 centimeters to the right due to the Earth's rotation. This is called the Coriolis effect. Most snipers ignore this effect at distances under 1,000 meters, but with a target that's only 40 centimeters wide, 2 centimeters can mean the difference between a hit and a miss. The wind was the biggest variable. 4.3 meters per second of wind from the northeast means that the bullet is drifted approximately 30 centimeters to the left during its flight time of 1.2 seconds. But wind is never constant. It fluctuates. In the seconds before the shot, the wind speed can change by plus or minus 1 meter per second. This means a deviation of up to 7 centimeters. Matthias Hetzenauer had to calculate all of this in his head, without computers, without rangefinders, without modern ballistic calculators, only with experience, intuition, and mathematical understanding. Professor Dr. Heinrich Müller, a German ballistics expert, analyzed the shot in 1978. His conclusion: the probability of hitting a target of this size from 800 meters with the equipment used under these conditions is approximately 0.3%. That's one successful shot for every 333 attempts. The fact that Private Hetzenauer managed it on his first try is statistically extraordinary. But Hetzenauer didn't just have the luck of statistics. He had skill. And that skill was developed in the Tyrolean Alps, where as a child he learned to hunt chamois that moved on mountaintops, in wind, in snow, in conditions that most people would call impossible. After the war, Hetzenauer was taken into Soviet captivity. He spent 5 years in a labor camp in Siberia. The Soviet guards knew who he was. They knew he had killed Major General Brezhnev. They beat him. They starved him. They tried to break him. But Private Matthias Hetzenauer did not break. In 1950, he was released. He returned to Austria, to his village of Brixen in the valley. He never spoke about the war. He married a woman named Elizabeth in 1952. She was a teacher at the local school. She knew that Matthias was in the war. She knew that he was in Siberia. But she never asked for details, because she saw what the Knights did to him. They had 3 children, 2 sons, Peter and Frank, and a daughter, Mary. Matthias loved his children more than anything in the world, but he never taught them how to shoot. He didn't own a rifle. He never went hunting again. When his sons asked him why not, he just said, "I've done enough shooting for one lifetime. Now it's time for other things." He worked as a carpenter, building houses in the same mountains where he had hunted as a child. He was known for his precision. Every board sat perfectly. Every nail was exactly where it needed to be. 0 mistakes. 0 tolerance for inaccuracy. His customers said he was obsessed with perfection, but Matthias knew it wasn't an obsession, it was therapy, because when he focused on millimeter accuracy with a wooden beam, he couldn't think about centimeter accuracy with a headshot. No one in his village knew that this quiet man with the gentle eyes was once the most sought-after target of the Soviet army. No one knew that he was the second most successful sniper in the German army. No one knew that his name in Soviet military records came with the note, "Highest priority, eliminate at every opportunity." His children sometimes asked him about the war. He always answered the same thing: "War is nothing to talk about. War is something to forget." But Private Matthias Hetzenauer never forgot the war. Every night, for the rest of his life, he saw the faces, not at 800 meters, where they were just blurs. But as he imagined, they looked young, old, with families, with dreams. 345 faces. He carried them all. His wife, Elizabeth, said later in an interview, after his death, "He cried every night, quietly. He thought I was asleep, but I heard him. For 50 years. Every single night. He dreamed of men he never knew, of families he had destroyed, of children growing up without fathers because of him. There was nothing I could do, except be there and hold him, and tell him that he was a good man, even if he didn't believe me. That's the price of excellence, not the fame, not the recognition, not the medals, but the fact that you remember everything, forever." In 1989, 44 years after the war, Matthias Hetzenauer received a letter from Russia. The letter was from a man named Viktor Brezhnev, the son of Major General Leonid Ivanovich Brezhnev. The letter was written in German. Viktor had used a translator. "Dear Mr. Hetzenauer," the letter began, "I know that you are the man who killed my father on August 11th, 1944. It took me many years to find you. I am not writing to seek revenge. I am writing because I need to understand. My father was not a good man. I only learned this many years after his death. He sent thousands of soldiers into pointless attacks. He massacred civilians. If you hadn't killed him, he probably would have killed even more people. I just wanted to let you know, I forgive you. And I thank you for surviving, because it means that you didn't become like him. With respect, Viktor Brezhnev." Matthias Hetzenauer read the letter 3 times. Then he cried. It was the first time since the end of the war that he had cried. He wrote back. The letter was short. "Dear Mr. Brezhnev, thank you for your words. I have thought about your father every day since August 11th, 1944. Not because I am proud of what I did, but because I know that every man I killed was someone's father, someone's son, someone's brother. I hope that you have had a better life than I have had. With respect, Matthias Hetzenauer." The 2 men corresponded for the next 15 years. They never met in person, but they understood each other in a way that only people who were scarred by the same war could. In 1997, Viktor Brezhnev died of cancer. In his will, he left Matthias Hetzenauer a gift, the binoculars that his father was holding on August 11th, 1944, when he died. Hetzenauer kept the binoculars in a cabinet. He never looked through them. The story of Private Matthias Hetzenauer has been studied by military historians since the war. The shot from 800 meters is still considered one of the most remarkable ballistic feats of World War II. The U.S. Army Sniper School at Fort Benning, Georgia, teaches this shot as a case study. They call it the Hetzenauer shot. Modern snipers, equipped with rifles that are 10 times more accurate than the Carabiner 98K, with scopes that are 20 times better than the ZF-39 scope, with laser rangefinders and ballistic computers, regard this shot with a mixture of awe and disbelief. In 2001, the US military attempted to replicate the shot. They used an original Carabiner 98K from 1943, an original ZF-39 scope, ammunition that was as close as possible to the original specification. 10 of the best snipers in the US Army attempted to hit a target from 800 meters. The target was stationary, it wasn't moving, the weather conditions were controlled, wind 4.3 meters per second, temperature 19 degrees Celsius. Each sniper had 10 shots. Out of 100 shots, 7 hit the target, a 7% hit rate under ideal conditions with a stationary target. Private Matthias Hetzenauer had 1 shot at a moving target under combat conditions, and he hit it. Sergeant First Class Michael Anderson, one of the participating snipers, later said, "I understand now why the Soviets offered the title Hero of the Soviet Union for anyone who killed Hetzenauer. That man wasn't a normal threat. He was a phantom, a ghost, and the most dangerous man on the Eastern Front." On October 4th, 2004, Matthias Hetzenauer passed away in a hospital in Innsbruck. He was 79 years old. 200 people attended his funeral, his children, his grandchildren, his friends from the village, and an old man sitting way in the back who didn't know anyone. After the ceremony, this man introduced himself. "My name is Viktor Brezhnev Jr.," he said. "I'm the grandson of Major General Leonid Ivanovich Brezhnev. My father died 7 years ago, but before he passed, he asked me to come here. Should Mr. Hetzenauer die before me? He wanted me to pay my respects to a man who did what he thought was right, even when it was the hardest thing to do." The Hetzenauer family invited him for dinner. They sat together at a table. The children of Matthias Hetzenauer, the grandson of Leonid Ivanovich Brezhnev. 2 families, connected by a single shot, fired 60 years earlier. They didn't talk about the war. They talked about life, about the future, about hope. That is the true legacy of Matthias Hetzenauer. Not the shot from 800 meters, not the 345 kills, but the fact that after the war, he didn't become a monster, that he found forgiveness, that he learned to be human again. In the small church in Brixen in the valley, a memorial plaque hangs today. It bears no numbers, no kill count, no military decorations. It simply says, Matthias Hetzenauer, 1924 to 2004, father, husband, carpenter, a man who bore the heavy burden so others could live. The story of Matthias Hetzenauer isn't a story about heroism. It's a story about skill, about duty, about the terrible choices people have to make in war. A shot from 800 meters, technically impossible, and yet it happened. This is not a glorification of war. It's a testament to the fact that even in the darkest moments of history, human excellence exists, and that this excellence has a price that only those who paid it can understand. Matthias Hetzenauer paid that price. He carried 345 names for the rest of his life. He never slept without dreams. He never lived without regret. But he survived, and he did not become a monster. That is the real achievement, not the perfect shot, but the ability to remain human afterward.